This is an RNZ podcast.
Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle Ben Strang. I'm the host of RNZ's Paris Essentials podcast. Thank you for joining us again today. Another good day for New Zealand. A silver medal in the sailing for Will McKenzie and Isaac McHardie. The McKiwis, they're called the McKiwis. McKiwis. The McKiwis, they finished with silver in Marseille, so another fantastic performance. They were third heading into the medal round and managed to have a really good race and move up into silver. So unfortunately the Spanish were a little bit too good, but a very, very good result for New Zealand there. And some decent results overnight. The athletics got underway. We have both of our men's shot putters into the final, which is terrific. Tom Walsh and Jack O'Gill into the shot put final. And how exciting was it to watch Zoe Hobbs in the women's 100 metres go through to the semi-finals at a canter. She did it very easily, a personal best for the season. And afterwards she said she's got plenty left in the tank. She knew she was going to qualify, and so she just eased off. That is very, very exciting to see, and it'll be wonderful to see how she goes overnight. But let's begin today by talking about this sailing. Another medal, the sixth medal of New Zealand's games. Let's hear from Will McKenzie and then Isaac McHardie during their press conference.
Looking back at the week, we started off strong, which was really nice, but we came into a lot of adversity and struggle on day three. We just couldn't quite figure out the wind pattern for that day, and the Spanish could, clearly. But I thought we bounced back well from that day and kept fighting, so super stoked to finish in silver. But then as a campaign as a whole, I suppose our lighter air has generally been our strongest suit, and we've been putting time to focus on the breezy stuff, which I thought we didn't quite show this event, but I think we entered these games with quite a rounded campaign, and we're happy with what we achieved.
Isaac and William, you must be super proud to maintain that legacy. Tell us, how many medals now has New Zealand won in a row in the 49er, and about being involved in that programme and being able to continue the success of Burling and Tube?
Yeah, to continue the legacy that Pete and Blair have started in the 49er classes is immensely proud for us. They've put a lot of effort into the New Zealand team. You know, they've handed a lot of information down, and for us to push hard and keep continuing that is super important. And you know, we've got a good crew of younger generation still building up through the squad, so I hope that we can continue the legacy for a lot longer.
We have some online questions. If we could just get the OIS to ask those.
Yep, thank you very much. So I've got a question for the Kiwis here from Barry Guy from RNZ. He just wants you to go into a bit more detail about the final race and how you managed to do what you needed to do to clinch silver, plus how it felt for you to get that medal around your neck.
Yeah, the points going into the medal race were extremely tight. I think anyone in the top 7 or something could have won gold. So we had a lot of guys around us, and we knew we had to put down one of our better races. So it started off with a good start, and we had a plan of trying to get to that left-hand side in good shape and trying to get out of there in good shape, and we executed that. It helped that a lot of the guys were over and had to go back. It made it a lot simpler for us. But I think our game plan was solid, and we executed it well, so we're very happy.
And have you heard from Pete or Blair? They're only over in Barcelona. Have they wanted to sail in and see you both in person?
Yeah, it was about 10 minutes ago that Blair gave us a call and said congratulations, and he's super proud of us.
He's not coming over?
No, unfortunately, I don't think he will be. He's probably pretty busy at Team NZ.
There you have it. That was Will McKenzie and Isaac McHardie talking at their press conference after taking home the silver in Marseille. So a fantastic performance for them. They've been looking really good all week. And you hear them talking about Burling and Tube there a little bit in the press conference. I mean, I hadn't heard much about these guys before the Olympic Games, but immediately as they started to do well, this is what, I was thinking about. Is this the new Berlin and Chuk? I caught up with Felicity Reid, one of our crew over in Paris, and I absolutely asked her about that, whether that's something that's a possibility, whether we're seeing the new wave of sailor come through with the McKiwis. And I started by asking her about our silver medal winning sailors.
Yeah, the sailing silver for the McKiwis, that crew dubbed the McKiwis. It's Isaac McHardie and Will McKenzie. Now, in the 49er, there's a little bit of history for New Zealand, right? So that's Blair Chuk and Peter Burling. They've stepped away from it with the Sail GP and the America's Cup commitments and have opened the way, I guess, for these two young men to come through. And they've really shown that they're quite capable on the world stage. I know that Blair and Peter had passed on a message of encouragement, and it seems to have really worked for these guys. Like Marseille in the wind, it's been a bit of a problem, but they had that medal race called off twice the day before. So to have finally got it out of the way today, I think they were quite pleased to have got the race done, but to be in the medals as well, something they'd been dreaming of since they were a kid. I mean, what an outcome for them.
It's funny you mentioned Berlin and Chuk, because as the racing has continued, it's immediately made me think, do we have another Berlin and Chuk here? The McKiwis. Is that what we're seeing?
I would say so. It's very much in the mould of that, and I think maybe Pete and Blair have done that by design as well, kept these guys kind of close to them with that encouragement and seen maybe in them what we're talking about here, somebody to follow in their footsteps and kind of carry it on. And maybe they're seeing that this is a class, the 49er, that they want to kind of encourage that next generation where it is quite competitive among some of the New Zealand sailors as well.
It also feels like they almost come out of nowhere, because I guess the sailing coverage maybe isn't as strong as it could be at times. I mean, did you know much about these guys before heading to the Olympics?
A little bit about them. You kind of hear them coming through age group, and they're kind of around some of the different trialling things in Yachting New Zealand as well, like given a few opportunities. But I think the more that they achieve on the international stage, and obviously picking up a medal here, we'll hear even more about them in the future, and maybe a little bit more about where they see themselves going as well.
Not so great news at the rowing. Very, very close, though. A fourth place for our double scullers, Jackie Kittle and Shannon Cox. So very close to continuing that great run at the rowing.
Yeah, it was quite an unfortunate Olympics again for Jackie Kittle. You might remember that she had qualified for Tokyo but had to pull out from that because her partner in the boat had actually withdrawn due to medical reasons. So I ran into a couple of people yesterday at New Zealand House who were in the rowing community, had come along to the Olympics, not really supporting anyone in particular, but the lady was saying to me, she really hoped that Jackie Kittle would get an opportunity at this Olympics and that it would turn out. I'm not quite sure how Jackie feels about fourth. Maybe that's what was best for them on the day, but it's one of those redemption stories that you hoped maybe she'd have snuck into the medals as well and, like you say, carried on that success we're having in the rowing.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't a situation where they lost a medal, though, was it? It was where, if anyone watching the race saw the Greeks just surged like crazy at the end and snuck, took it off them.
Yeah, it's one of these things we're seeing some of the stories around those come from behind as well, probably the Hayden Wild in the triathlon, sort of watching him get overtaken. It's seeing these kind of close finishes where, like, okay, and then someone's come from behind and got you.
Yeah, and so also not quite very close, but for the trampoline, Dylan Schmidt, he was looking good heading into the final, and then just an unfortunate fall.
Yeah, his first qualifying routine, it maybe wasn't his best. He was in the top 8 and then opted to do his second exercise, and that was really secured his place, and there had gone in fourth at qualifier. And he was a little bit behind those guys who finished in the medals, the athletes from the neutral venue and the two Chinese athletes. Looking at their scores, you would have thought that maybe Dylan would have been pushing it. But for him to then get up in the final and bounce off the tramp, I mean, in the first round of qualification, everyone had stayed on the tramp and everyone seemed quite impressed that the athletes were staying on. And I was like, okay. And then in the second round, you see as the pressure increases, a few more athletes miss the tramp, jump off the end, do a little bit of a roly-poly accidentally. But, I mean, you've got these people here with the mats, and as we saw with Dylan, he was bouncing, and then he bounced, and camera angle can kind of tell you, like, oh no, he's going to miss the tramp. Like, and he just bounces, and his coach or person supporting sort of moves the mat to catch him, and then you sort of see him underneath the trampoline. I mean, what a way to finish an Olympics as well. So somebody else who is speaking to his mum, Jen, before the Olympics as well, and she doesn't get to see Dylan competing as much as she'd like to these days. It's quite expensive to travel overseas, but her and her husband had been to Portugal to the World Cup recently to watch him compete. And she said when they'd gone there, they sort of realised the intensity of competition again. And she said to me how easily things can go wrong. And that's exactly what I thought of when he bounced off the tramp. I was like, his mum kind of said in a competition like this, it's quite easy for those things to happen. And maybe hearing Dylan reflecting afterwards, he kind of was quite philosophical that in trampoline you can just sometimes jump off the tramp.
Man, it's scary to watch, but again, it's somebody who sort of comes onto our radar every few years. Certainly shocked people at Tokyo, didn't he? So it was fantastic to see him there or thereabouts. Yeah, we were all gathered
around the TV watching that one.
Exactly. You just never... I said yesterday, it's funny, but at 4 a.m. I might be setting my alarm to watch trampolining. Who would have ever thought that? The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, the athletics is all underway, which is very exciting. Obviously, the shot putters doing pretty well, Tom Walsh, Jacko Gill, but Zoe Hobbs, the 100 metres, the women's 100 metres, I haven't been able to wait for this, and she's gone into the preliminary round, the heats, and delivered.
Delivered with a season best, 11.08 seconds. She was the second qualifier in her heat, and I think maybe what the others who are in her semi-final, or even potentially if she hopefully makes it to the final, need to look out for that. She was basically suggesting that as she was getting close to the finish line, that she sort of eased off a little bit because she could see that she was going to finish in a qualifying spot. And how scary. She's done a season best and was kind of just like, I just might ease off here.
Yeah, out for a Saturday jog, wasn't she? It was pretty amazing, and you could see it. I mean, the gap to first was quite big, but she certainly did seem to ease off. It looks like they're going to need to definitely go under that 11-second mark to make the finals. But as you say, she seems to be suggesting she's got something in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, that's, even though that is her season best, she's definitely going to need to improve onto that to get into the final. And I mean, even if we're dreaming of anything being close to a medal, it's definitely going to take a big chunk of time off. But I think she'd be reasonably happy with where she's at going into this as well.
Yeah, so she just needs to, add some extra time. But she, I'm sure she wants a medal, but for New Zealanders watching at home, it almost doesn't matter, does it? I mean, if she were to qualify for the 100 metres final, the whole of New Zealand will be up watching it.
Oh, exactly. And I think that's the big sporting event, right? Even though, most sports would want them to be getting a medal, I think we look at this and see the quality of the field, but also what she's achieving and what New Zealand hasn't been able to achieve until this point. It's been such a long time to have someone in this position that adds even more to it. We've kind of all heard her battle as well to get into this, missing out on the last Olympics, and has been worked so hard to get to this point. And she's done her seasons or records are quite close to home. We've seen some of the things that she's been able to do kind of on New Zealand tracks. We see her go the other side of the world onto some of these Diamond League things and do well as well. But then to put her on the Olympic stage and to say, this is New Zealand in a 100 metres. This is a woman that could match it with some of these really big names in the sport as well. She can consider herself one of those. And so for her to be able to reach the semi-finals and then hopefully the finals, I mean, what an amazing outcome.
Absolutely incredible, yeah. There's a few important things I wanted to ask you about. How's the food been?
Well, I think we, as an RNZ crew, we all sit down for breakfast every day at our hotel. I'm kind of getting sick of some of the repetition here. I'm trying to get creative with my breakfast. It's a little bit of a buffet, and I'm trying to spread it out and trying to figure out new ways to have bread and cheese and eggs.
And do you even get time to go and enjoy some of the French delicacies when you're out working?
No, we don't. I mean, Barry and I were just talking about that on our way back to the hotel tonight, and we're like, oh, it'd be nice to actually sit down and have a proper meal. We do hear some of our media colleagues, though. They've made a good recommendation of this place quite close to the main press centre. They describe it with great things, and then, of course, one of the camera people decides to show me a video of what it all looks like. It's the steak and frites. You've probably seen it on Instagram. It's where they get their plates refilled and everything's so lovely. And I'm like, how do they even have time for this?
Wow. Yeah, well, you guys have been jumping from venue to venue, doing a terrific job. What have you made of some of the big international storylines over there? What is Paris buzzing about?
Well, I think Paris is buzzing about their swimmer. You know, I think everywhere we go as well, like it's when French people are having success. I know that out at the mountain biking, there was a little bit of a delay because a French rider had won. And so everybody was crowding the course. All of the athletes couldn't get through. It was such a time that I think France is celebrating all of when their own athletes are doing quite well. And I think perhaps I'm not really across all of the French athletes, but I feel like some of them are maybe having success in events that even their public weren't quite prepared for.
Yeah, watching the women's triathlon and seeing the French woman come through the field, it was, I mean, the crowds were amazing anyway, but when she took the front and then ran off with the win, it was insane through the streets of Paris.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe like anything when you're hosting an event, you want your own team to be doing well because then it maybe makes you feel a bit better about hosting and some of the things that maybe you didn't like about the fact that they were hosting. But of course, Simone Biles is a big story over here as well. I mean, she's a big story just about all the time, but as she's wrapped up her gymnastics program as well and probably can truly, truly take the GOAT status, that I think that's been a big story as well. I think that I was at New Zealand House again and there were some Americans that had come in. They didn't go into USA House, they'd come to New Zealand House, but they were watching it and on the big screen, and New Zealand had the big screen split into 4 different events that were on. You could hear these people cheering and getting excited, and you could hear the rest of the room kind of getting excited with them. So I think it's a lot of embracing other athletes with, like you say, the big international story as well while people are here. That's not just the New Zealanders or it's not just the French that people are getting behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much success have you had in nailing that dream interview? Have you managed to hunt down LeBron James or Steph Curry?
No. Barry and Dana and Nathan were all at that interview, and I missed out.
That is blasphemous.
I think so. They show me these great photos, and I'm like, that's nice.
Oh, that's terrible. When I used to work at the Waikato Times, one of my colleagues had the dream of interviewing Sonny Bill Williams, and one day I got to fulfill her dream, and so I took a photo for her and passed it on to her. It sounds like a possible similar situation here.
Yeah, I know how she felt.
And just lastly, I've been asking a lot of people this, but based on what you've seen over there, if you had to compete in one of these sports and not finish in last place, what sport do you think you might enter?
Ooh. I mean, equestrian was at such a great venue, if that's what we're going on.
Oh, that's not a bad shout, especially because they all talk about your horsepower, right? So as long as you've got a good horse, you might be in.
Exactly. I feel like maybe that's less on me as the athlete and more on my, perhaps, training of a horse and working with them. But I think maybe I'd go with that.
That's a good shout. I've thought about this in detail, and it's the 20K race walk for me because half the field will get disqualified, and then I just need to go out for a leisurely stroll.
I like your thinking.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Felicity. Appreciate it. That was Felicity Reid in Paris. Hopefully she and the rest of the team get a chance to actually enjoy some of that French food. What's the point of being in Paris if you can't enjoy the food? I mean, I know they're working hard, but come on, RNZ, you got to give them an hour here or there to go and enjoy some escargot or something, surely. Anyway, let's look ahead. Let's look ahead to the rest of... I mean, this is the reason they can't, right? Look how packed the schedule is. I'm going to read through the schedule. Very, very busy. Not much downtime if you're wanting to get through it all, folks. Let's start with the golf. It kicks off at about 7 p.m. Daniel Hillier, not in great shape. He's second to last. a few shots over par. Ryan Fox looking a little bit better, but he's tied for 30th, 2 under par after 2 rounds, so he'll be hoping to get a rattle on over the weekend. The leaders are at 11 under par at the moment, so he's 9 shots back. The shooting gets underway for Chloe Tipple in the women's skeet qualification. That's at 7 p.m. New Zealand time. The rowing, big evening of rowing again. The women's single sculls final with Emma Twigg at 8:18 p.m. She is a gold medal hope. She qualified with the fastest time. She's the defending champion. Here's hoping Emma can do the job again. Emma Twigg, 8:18 p.m, folks. The men's single sculls final with Tom McIntosh, another medal hope, Tom. Possibly not a gold hope, but you never know. He is at 8:30 p.m, so a nice little 20-minute stretch there of rowing finals for New Zealand. In the cycling, the men's road race gets underway tonight at 9 p.m. We have Lawrence Pithy and Corbin Strong competing. The sailing, the NACRA 17 gets underway with Micah Wilkinson and Erica Dawson. That's from 10 p.m. The men's dinghy continues with Thomas Saunders from 10:15. The women's dinghy races 5 and 6 for Greta Pilkington get underway just after midnight, 12:25 a.m. The kayak slalom gets properly underway. Round 1 for the women, Luca Jones, is at 1:30 a.m. This is the kayak cross where they're racing each other. So 1:30 a.m. for Luca Jones, 2:40 a.m. for Finn Butcher in the men's racing. And then the athletics. Well, the men's 1500 metre repechage, Sam Tanner didn't quite finish top 6 last night in the 1500 metre, so he has to come back again at 5:15 a.m. to have a crack at progressing in the 1500 metres. The men's shot put final, Tom Walsh and Jack O'Gill competing from 5:35 a.m. And then Zoe Hobbs in the women's 100 metre semi-finals. She's in the 3rd race. She's probably going to need at least a season best and possibly a personal best. She's run a 10.96 in the 100 metres and probably needs to go slightly faster, but she says she has plenty in the tank. If she finishes top 2 in that semi-final, she will progress to the final, which would be an incredible achievement. But the semi-finals from 5:50 a.m, the women's 100 metre final is at 7:20 a.m. And then in the swimming, the women's 800 metre freestyle final, Erica Fairweather competing at 7:09 a.m. So make sure you set your alarms, folks. Watch what you want to watch. I will be glued to the athletics tomorrow morning. Zoe Hobbs, I cannot wait to see her competing in the semi-final and see what she can achieve for New Zealand. I don't care where she finishes, but if she can make that final, it would be one of the most memorable sporting events I think New Zealanders would ever get to watch. That would be absolutely incredible. So fingers crossed for them. I will be back tomorrow with another episode of Paris Essentials. We're dropping them at 11 a.m. every day, tout le jour, during the Olympic Games. Make sure you follow and listen wherever you get your podcasts. So until tomorrow, à demain, au revoir.